Hey guys, it's Jen Party. So I've been wanting to do a video about the Orphic hymns, or just talking about them briefly as a personal daily devotional practice. Um, but I thought a nice way to start, and what inspired me today, would be to chant the Orphic hymn for Selene, because it's a Monday. And Monday is the moon's day, and Selene is the goddess of the moon, or one of the goddesses of the moon, most closely associated. And it's also a full moon today. So I'm going to start out by chanting for you the Orphic hymn to Selene, and I'm going to be chanting from Patrick Dunn's version of the Orphic hymns. I have it open in case I need to look. I love this translation the most, but there are a number of translations available, and I will talk about that a little bit more too. So here's the Orphic hymn to Selene. Hear, royal goddess, light-bearing, divine Selene, bull-horned Mene, night runner, roamer through the nightly air, torch-bearing, fair-starred Mene, you wax and wane, both male and female, a shining lover of horses. Mother of time, fruit-bearing, amber, somber, shining down in the night, all-seeing, wakeful, full of lovely stars, rejoicing in silence and the blessed peace of the night. Bright giver of good grace and bringer of completion, a holy image of the night, you lead out the stars, your long cloak streaming, running in spirals. Come, all-wise maiden, come. Blessed, kind goddess of beautiful stars, and shine with threefold light made, redeeming your new supplicants. So, I love chanting, or I have an affinity with chanting, and I also like using my meditation bowl for chants, because I did a lot of that, or have done a lot of that, in the Buddhist tradition, in Shambhala Buddhist, which is a tantric Buddhist tradition. There's a lot of chanting, and for me, getting into more pagan or Wiccan or magical practices, chanting but using the Orphic hymns feels beautiful and familiar. It feels like a gentle way of invoking the gods or goddesses, and I especially am drawn to it as a daily practice. So I got this idea from Christopher Warnock. He does astrological magic, but he talked about, no matter how good or bad or whatever condition a planet is in your chart, you can do a devotional practice as a way of drawing closer to the gods and honoring them. It's like a gentle way where you don't have to worry so much about messing up if you do the invocations and that energy is not well suited to the moment or to your chart or whatever. And to me, again, it just feels like a good way to connect. So he talked about that for many, many years. Christopher Warnock talked about this. He has had a practice of chanting prayers or hymns to the gods. I don't think he uses the Orphic hymns particularly, but he does have those translations available on his website, which is Renaissance Astrology. But he would chant for whatever god happened to rule that particular day. So on Monday, Selene today. On Tuesday, that would be Mars. On Wednesday, that would be Mercury. On Thursday, Jupiter. On Friday, Venus. On Saturday, Saturn. And on Sunday, the sun, which you would probably do Helios, although you could do Apollo. So it really struck a resonance with me as a way of beginning to, again, gently invoke and connect with the energies of these different days and these different gods that rule the days from a Hellenistic, polytheistic perspective. And the Orphic Hymns, there is a collection of, it's about 87 hymns, actually. These are beautiful old hymns that have been around since late antiquity. And for a long time, the only translations that we really had of them in our modern English language were by Thomas Taylor, who translated them in the 1800s, I believe, and you can get Thomas Taylor's translations for free. Again, you can get those on Christopher Warnock's website, or you can probably just Google search them and find them easily for free. But they have this old, like, romantic flourish to them, but they're not necessarily the most direct translations. I love Patrick Dunn's translations because I think they're absolutely beautiful. I mean, wasn't that hymn for Selene just absolutely beautiful? I think he found a really nice balance between giving us the meaning of the hymns in not overly flowery language, being economical, but also managing to just make them sound beautiful. And there are some rhymes in there. He's not worried as much about the rhymes, though, as some other translators might be. So this version of the Orphic Hymns came out a couple of years ago. And as I mentioned, there are a number of other translations that you might be interested in. Another one that I can recommend, I don't use it as much, but I think it's a great resource, is the Orphic Hymns Grimoire. I have a hardcover version of this, but you can get paperback or an ebook for cheaper. And this is by Sarah Mastros. And the cool thing about what Sarah does, and I'm going to try and find it and show you, is that she has an illustration. She didn't do these illustrations. She hired somebody to do them. But there's an illustration for each of the gods that are being invoked. And then there's her translation. And then she will give like background or like actual little spells that you can do that are related to these gods or to the areas of life that they are connected to. So that's kind of fascinating. So for Selene, just by way of comparison, I will read you what Sarah Mastros wrote for Selene. Hear us, holy goddess, night-shining queen, Selene, light-bringer of radiant gleam, cow-horned moon, racing through the night, nocturnal torch-bearing maiden of light, waxing and waning, male and female combined, luminous silver-rayed mother of time. You love running horses, O fruitful deliverer, joy-giving, deep-hearted, big bliss distributor, whose warm glowing orb illumines the night, all-seeing, ever-vigilant, bright, beautiful, bright, full to bursting with stars, O pregnant moon, your warm glowing orb reflects the light of high noon. The rich quiet black is your eternal delight. You grant favor and luck, shining jewel of the night, marshal of the stars, purple cloaked, silver veiled, lux lustrous Initiatrix, Queen of Night, hail! O maiden, bright moon, accept your initiate's praise, and shine on our sanctum with your all-blessing rays. So if you like a translation that still catches a lot of the granular meanings, but has more kind of rhyming poetry to it and is modern, Sarah Mastros's translation I think is great. Like, I can pick out a lot of the same meanings in both of these versions of the hymns. And then she gives a dream incubation ritual for revelation, which is inspired by the PGM, or the Greek magical papyri. So she does that below her translation. So I think if you're looking for, again, it's called the Orphic Hymns Grimoire, if you're looking for using the hymns as a jumping off point for magic, and you like the rhymes and cadence of Sarah's versions, I would definitely recommend her versions of the hymns. Patrick Dunn does also give some suggestions for how you could use the hymns in magic at the beginning of his book. So, yeah, there are some other translations available too that are modern. Athanasakis, I believe is his name, was the first real modern translation that gets a lot of good reviews. Looks like the first edition of his Orphic Hymns was put out in 1977, but I think there is an updated version from 2013. So Athanasakis. And then there's a recent version that just came out called The Magic of the Orphic Hymns, which gives a lot of great history. And I think it takes a more devotional perspective and more focused on mystic and devotional rather than the magical aspects. But yeah, there's a lot of translations out there that are available if you're interested. In addition to the beauty of chanting the Orphic hymns as a way of connecting to the energy of these different days of the week and the different gods that are associated, I think it's a great tool also for study and for learning about and internalizing the qualities of the gods. So obviously Selene, or the moon, aside from the sun, is the other major light, is the other major luminary, right? And Selene in particular, in kind of more, I think in more modern times, when we think of Selene as one of the triple goddesses associated with the moon, she would be associated with the full moon. Now, interestingly here, it does say bull-horned Mene, and Mene is another name for the moon itself. And I think the bull-horned might actually be talking about the, sort of like the crown of Hathor that has the waxing and the waning crescent moons with the full moon in the middle. I'm not sure about that. I'm not a scholar. But I love this as a way of contemplating and studying. Yeah, in her translation, Sarah Masters says cow-horned moon. So I'm not sure if that has to do with the phases or with the association with, I also think of like the moon being associated or exalted in Taurus and the bull. But there is another spot. Shine with threefold light. I find that really interesting because that seems to indicate that Selene, in all of her phases, the shine with threefold light, and also when it talks about waxing and waning, both male and female, I think it's talking about the fact that she has different qualities, that she, in general, rules all of the moon's phases, and that she has different qualities depending on whether her light is building to full, which I guess would be more masculine, more outer orientation on the waxing moon, or if she is waning to become new again, in which case her qualities would be more feminine. So that's interesting. You know, we chant to Selene because she is the goddess of the moon in all of her phases, at least from an Orphic hymn perspective. And she's associated here with, okay, it also says Mother of Time. That kind of goes with what we were just talking about, like the cycles of the moon as a marker of time. A week is roughly one of the phases of the moon. And we have a full cycle like every 29 days or so. So she's not, you know, maybe as reliable of a marker as our typical calendars that we're used to, but she is one of the most visible markers in the sky. And there is this regular rhythm to her light, and you can count on that. It's something that happens with regularity. I like also, it's also extolling her nocturnal qualities. She rejoices in silence in the blessed peace of the night. All-seeing, wakeful, full of lovely stars. There's a sense of, she is the one who watches over the night. If the sun is diurnal and rules the day, the moon is nocturnal and rules the night. She is the main luminary of the night. And I think if you have a strong moon placement in your astrology chart, or if you have a nocturnal chart, so the sun is below the horizon, maybe she has that much more influence for you. I also like how it talks about that she's the bright giver of good grace and bringer of completion. So in addition to these cycles, like being able to initiate things under the new moon and see them kind of building, presenting challenges at the waxing quarter, see the fullness of a situation and release what needs to be released at the full moon, and then winding things up in that last quarter and beginning again under the dark moon. So there's that aspect of bringer of completion, but also I think of the moon's association with the part of fortune in Hellenistic astrology, and that the moon is embodied. If the sun is associated with spirit and illumination, in the sense of higher purpose and inspiring us to reach greater heights and reach for what is not manifest on the physical plane, the moon is that which nourishes us. So the sun inspires us, but the moon nourishes us. She gives us a place to rest and become rejuvenated and pause, rejoice in silence. And also, ruling the part of fortune, she brings us the material things that we need in order to be sustained. She's associated with the body and our physical needs, our needs for comfort, nourishment, and resources, so that we have what we need in order to accomplish things in the world. So there's this dance between the sun and the moon, and she, on the material end, I think helps us to manifest. As the sun inspires, the moon provides. Anyway, these are just a few thoughts, not terribly prepared and written out, but I just wanted to share with you some thoughts about the moon and chant her lovely hymn for you today. And another thing I will say is that in addition to invoking whatever god whose day it is, a couple things I want to say briefly. So you can also invoke associated gods. I mean, you can really do whatever you want. It's your own devotional or magical practice. But what I personally like to do is frequently invoke associated gods on those days. So, for example, on Monday, I work a lot with Hecate. And Hecate is associated oftentimes with the dark moon, or seen these days to be a lunar goddess in many ways. So I will frequently invoke Hecate on Mondays, along with Selene. I might also invoke Artemis, one of the other goddesses who is associated with lunar energies. And lunar energies do pop up in her hymn. On Tuesdays, in addition to invoking Aries, Mars, I will often invoke Pallas Athena. Athena, I think, helps to bring, she's still got that, she's a mother of war. So there's still that kind of emblazoned working through and attacking things kind of orientation to the martial Tuesday. But I think Athena brings more wisdom to it, and I like to work with Athena, so I frequently will invoke her on Tuesdays. There are several hymns. So Wednesdays is Mercury or Hermes. Thursday is Jupiter or Zeus. There are several hymns to each of those gods. So you could, if you wanted to invoke Chthonic Mercury because he's retrograde, or because you have, are in mourning or want help working through something more difficult, you could invoke Chthonic Mercury instead of just doing the regular Hermes or Mercury hymn on Wednesdays. Or you could do both. On Thursdays, for a while, I was doing there was a hymn that was specifically to Zeus or Jupiter as the god of the thunderbolt. And there was also another one for him as a god of lightning. And then I realized that actually was not the main first hymn to him. So there is Zeus the thunderbolt, and there is for Zeus throwing lightning. But before that, there's just another hymn that says for Zeus. So sometimes, I will pick and choose which aspect of the god I want to honor or invoke. And sometimes I might call other gods that are related. On Saturn's day, I might call his wife Rhea as well. So these are just some examples. I do oftentimes like in using the Orphic hymns also in larger rituals that might include seasonal celebrations or magical workings. I don't do a lot of magical workings, but I'm playing with and learning some of that, and I do like incorporating Orphic hymns in those. So, just wanted to share that with you guys. The Orphic hymns are very dear to me, and I've been working with them for, I guess for about a year and a half. I was aware of them before that, but I've been working with them for about a year and a half, more regularly. and I'm trying to memorize some of the hymns. as you heard, I've been trying to memorize the hymn for Selene. Almost there. Yeah, I just think it's a beautiful practice, and it's something that I would like to have in my mind and at my fingertips, so to speak. But it's something to look into and to try out. If you haven't done that, try, and you want to, if you want to invoke the gods or a particular god and you're looking for good material, or you just want to study their qualities more, and familiarize yourself with their qualities more, I definitely recommend the Orphic Hymns. I am tempted one of these days to make more sort of devotional videos where I chant some of the hymns and maybe set music to them, or just chant them. It could be very short individual videos. So if you guys want more in the Orphic Hymns, just let me know. But just thought I would pop on and talk about them a little bit while I'm feeling inspired and on Selene's day. So bright blessings, happy full moon, and I will see you guys again sometime soon. Bye.